The Sands Hotel and Casino was a historic American hotel and casino on the Las Vegas Strip in Nevada that operated from 1952 until 1996. Welcome back to my channel. If you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button and notification bell so you get notified of my latest videos. Please hit that like button and leave a suggestion or a comment. You might see that in a future video. Thanks for watching, and now back to a regular scheduled program.
In Babylon, now at the Sands Resort and Casino.
Come see us, just for fun.
Construction began on the Sands Hotel in early 1952, built to a design by Wayne McAllister. Jake Friedman initially purchased the shares from Mac Kufferman, owner of the LaRue restaurant, who had aspirations to build a hotel and casino. The project failed to get a gaming license, even with the financial backing from mob-affiliated associates. Kufferman sold his shares to Friedman. Friedman had initially intended naming the hotel Holiday Inn, after the film of the same name starring Bing Crosby, but after noticing that his socks became so full of sand, decided to name it Sands. The tagline would be "A Place in the Sun," named after the recently released film starring Montgomery Clift and Elizabeth Taylor, and a suitable name to the hot desert location of Las Vegas. The hotel opened on December 15, 1952 as a casino with 200 rooms and was established less than 3 months after the opening of another prominent landmark, the Sahara Hotel and Casino. The opening was widely publicized, and the hotel was visited by some 12,000 people within a few hours. At the inauguration were 146 journalists and special guests such as Arlene Dahl, Fernando Lamas, Esther Williams, and Terry Moore. Every guest was given a chamois bag with silver dollars. The Sands ended up losing $200,000 within the first 8 hours. Danny Thomas, Jimmy McHugh, and the Copa Girls, labeled the most beautiful girls in the world, performed in the Copa Room on opening night, and Ray Sinatra and his orchestra were the initial house band. Thomas was hired to perform for the first 2 weeks, but strained his voice on the second night and developed laryngitis, and was replaced with performers such as Jimmy Durant, Frankie Lane, Jane Powell, the Ritz Brothers, and Ray Anthony. In the early years, Jake Friedman and his wife Carolyn was one of its attractions, wearing matching white leather outfits, replete with identical cowboy boots and hats. Friedman offered Carolyn's father, Nathan, a 5% stake in the Sands, but he declined the offer. Frank Sinatra began staying at the hotel and gambling there during breaks from Hollywood, though some sources state that he was not a hardcore gambler. Sinatra earned a notoriety for keeping his winnings and ignoring his gambling losses, but the mobsters running the hotel were not too concerned because Sinatra was a great for business. Sinatra made his debut performing at the hotel on October 4, 1953, after an invitation by the manager Jack and Trader. Sinatra typically played at Sands 3 times a year, sometimes a 2-week stint, which brought in big rollers and a lot of oil money from Texas. The big rollers left Vegas when Sinatra did, and other performers were reluctant to perform after him, feeling a little intimidated. Jack and Trotter, nicknamed Mr. Entertainment, it replaced Friedman as the president of the Sands Hotel following his death from heart surgery on January 20, 1958. Friedman's last wife, Sadie, subsequently lived in the suite in the Belmont Park wing into the mid-1960s until her death. Sinatra initially tried to buy a share in the hotel in 1953, but was denied by the Nevada Tax Commission. Later on, he was granted permission to buy a share in the hotel due to his phenomenal impact upon business in Las Vegas. His share, variously described as from 2 to 9%, aided Friedman's wife in paying off her husband's gambling debts. In 1955, limited integration came to the heavily segregated Las Vegas when the Sands first allowed Nat King Cole to stay at the hotel and perform. Sinatra noticed that he never saw Cole in the dining room, always eating his meals in solitude in his dressing room. When he asked his valet George to find out why, he learned that coloreds aren't allowed in the dining room at the Sands. Sinatra subsequently stated that if blacks were not allowed to eat their meals in the dining room with everybody else, he would see to it that all of the waiters and waitresses were fired, and invited Cole to dine with him the following evening. Cole was allowed permission into the casino. Another black performer, Harry Belafonte, who took a more aggressive approach by walking into the casino on his own accord and sitting at a blackjack table, which was not challenged by the bosses, Belafonte became the first black man to play cards on the Las Vegas Strip. Sammy Davis Jr. was instrumental in bringing about a general change in policy. When the Will Maston Trio began performing at the Sands in 1958, Davis informed Intrater that his father and uncle must be allowed permission to stay at Sands while he was performing there. Intrater granted them permission but continued his objection to admitting other black guests. Probably the hotel's biggest claim to fame was a 3-week period in 1960 during the filming of Ocean's 11, after which it attained iconic status. During that time, the movie stars Sinatra, Dean Martin, Davis, Joey Bishop, and Peter Lawford performed on the stage together in the Copa Room. The performances were called The Summit at the Sands, and this is considered to be the birth of the Rat Pack. Howard Hughes purchased the hotel in the mid-1960s for $14.6 million. The architect Martin Stern Jr. designed a 500-room circular tower, which opened in 1967. The hotel became a Las Vegas landmark. Hughes grew particularly annoyed every time the Rat Pack were in his hotel, due to his hatred of Frank Sinatra, which stemmed from the fact that he had been in love with Ava Gardner in the 1950s, and she had run off to marry Sinatra. Hughes plotted to oust Sinatra from the Sands for good and asked Robert Mayhew to draw up a plan shortly after the new hotel opened in 1967. The hotel imposed restrictions on what Sinatra could gamble in the casino to just $3,000 a night. Under previous management, Sinatra had no limits on the amount of credit extended to him by the Sands Casino. His IOUs, chits, or markers were torn up at the end of the Sinatra's engagements because he was considered to be good for business, bringing the hotel more monetary value than the worth of his gambling losses. Hughes put a stop to this system, telling Jack and Trotter to inform Sinatra of the new policy, and Trotter did not do so because he was afraid. Fuming, Sinatra began a weekend-long tirade against the hotel's management, employees, and security forces. The brawl involved Sinatra reportedly driving a golf cart through the window of a coffee shop, resulting in a fist fight, causing Sinatra to lose 2 teeth. He would move on to perform at Caesar's Palace. Sinatra never performed at the Sands again while Hughes was owner. After Sinatra left, the mobsters pulled out of the Sands and gradually left Vegas in the 1970s. The Sands was also featured in the first Godfather movie in 1972. In 1983, Hughes' company, the Suma Corporation, sold the Sands to the Pratt Corporation, but subsequently bought it back as they were unable to make a profit. MGM Grand bought the hotel along with the neighboring Desert Inn in 1988 for a total of $167 million, and the property became MGM Sands. The next year, MGM sold it for $110 million to Las Vegas Sands, a new company formed by the owners of the Interface Group, including Sheldon Adelson, Richard Katzeff, Ted Cutler, Irwin Chaffetz, and Jordan Shapiro. In the early 1990s, Adelson built the Sands Expo, a 1 million square foot convention center. In its final years, the Sands became a shadow of its former self, a throwback to the old days, and it ultimately could not compete with the newer and more exciting mega resorts that were being built on the Strip. However, a 1990s travel guide stated that the hotel gardens and pool area still retained the ambiance of the classic Sands days. The decision was eventually made by its final owner, Sheldon Adelson, to shut it down and to build a brand new resort. The last dice in the casino was rolled by Bob Stupak just after 6 p.m. on June 30th, 1996. On November 26, 1996, the Sands Casino and Hotel was imploded and demolished, much to the dismay of the longtime employees and sentimentalists. Footage of the demolition also appeared in the closing credits of The Cooler. Do you remember Con Air? The climactic plane crash in 1997's Con Air ended with the plane crashing into the soon-to-be demolished Sands lobby. On May 3rd, 1999, the new $1.5 billion mega resort, The Venetian, opened where the Sands had formerly been. A 35-story hotel with 3,036 rooms covering an area of 17 million square feet. So what were your favorite memories of this iconic casino? Was it the live shows featuring Wayne Newton, Liberace, or Frank Sinatra, or maybe even Elvis? How about the famous Copa Room or the Silver Queen Room? Or maybe it was your stay in one of the 200 guest rooms of the original hotel that was divided into 4 two-story motel wings, each with around 50 rooms, and named after famous racetracks. Well, whatever it was, leave a comment below. Thanks for watching.
Hey, if you just watched my video, thanks for watching. Hit that like button and please subscribe to Eric C. Productions.